What's up, everybody? Welcome to a Friday edition of the Occupy Fantasy Underdog Fantasy streams. Chuck Silver here with the co-founder of Occupy Fantasy, Brian. Brian, how we doing going into week 3?
What's up, Chuck? Feeling good. Looking at the top of the model this week, already just blindsided by how bad the running backs are on this slate. NFL has gotten here quickly. But yeah, I learned a lot from you last time we did this stream in week 1. So happy to get back on here with you and draft some more.
Yeah, I think that we can apply some specific strategies to the week 3, just given how awesome the running backs are at the top. But before we get into that, just in case it's your first time signing up for Underdog, I guess they have a pretty sick promo. Brian, you want to tell them about it?
Yeah. So if you guys have been here before, you know that we have the promo code Occupy with Underdog Fantasy. New users get a 100% deposit match bonus up to $100. But for whatever reason, from now until October 4th, so the next 2 weeks, it looks like they're actually extending that deposit match up to $500. So if you have not signed up for Underdog Fantasy yet, you're in a legal state. Use promo code Occupy, and they'll actually, if you deposit 500, they will give you $500 also. So we always talk about deposit bonuses and free money, and it's in industry. You should not pass them up. So I imagine for those of you who are tuning in, you probably are already signed up for Underdog. But if you're watching this on replay, you're just stumbling upon it, use promo code Occupy, get that free money, and start doing some of these drafts.
Yeah, that's one of the best promos I've ever heard. So free $500. Before we get into the Battle Royale draft, they have the 100K Sunday promo, which if you enter a pick'em with this Tyreek Hill selection, you can go higher or lower. I took higher in the one I have here. Any amount of money, doesn't matter. No minimum, no maximum. One entry per person. They'll select 10 people to give $10,000 to, which is pretty awesome. So I'm just going to do it every single week. And these other selections, I think, are pretty good stats to go for. Jake Elliott higher than 1.5 field goals made, and Marquise Brown higher than 4.0 receptions if you're looking for something to pair it with. I did want to point out something about the Tyreek Hill stat, though. Let me get this here. No picks available. Just refresh it real quick.
Okay. I mean, 10K, even though it's only 10 people, right? Like, it's another free roll that you can enter, basically. So,
yeah, I mean, the chances of winning are probably, I don't know, 1 in a couple million, but just the opportunity for it seems pretty great.
yeah.
So I don't have it showing up here on my screen anymore, but for the promo, you saw it was 86.5. Just in case you want to hit the higher on that stat, the regular stat for that is 85.5. So I would just put in the minimum to get entered in the promo. And then if you want to take the Tyreek Hill higher, make another slip and take the extra yard of insurance there.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
So we're going to go ahead and jump into the draft while we talk about some strategies for this week. I was talking to Brian before the show started, and if you are an Occupy member and you've taken a look at the model for week 3, you'll notice that the running backs at the top are pretty gross considering it's only week 3. Names like Gus Edwards, Jerome Ford, Raheem Mostert, Tony Pollard, Zach Moss, Josh Kelly, Travis Etienne. So I think the strategy this week is to target. So we have 3 elite tight ends, Kelsey, Hawkinson, and Andrews. I think we want to target one of these 3 guys with an early receiver. And then we can grab basically any of those running backs I just named in the last 2 rounds. So, Brian, how does that sound?
Yeah, it sounds great to me. I think, like I said, I learned a lot the first week, and you and I were discussing some strategies beforehand. We'll get into that here shortly, but it looks like there are a couple clear games to stack with that LA Minnesota game absolutely topping the list. So it's no surprise to see a lot of guys from that game have the higher ADPs. So it'll be interesting to navigate that while still trying to retain some upside and differentiation in a field of. I keep just throwing out random numbers. How many people are actually in this contest?
68,000.
All right, 68,000. So to retain that upside and differentiation in a field of 68,000 entrants.
And we got Chris in the chat, attacked by kicker touting on a Friday afternoon. Well, it's week 3 of the NFL. We're in full swing in the season, so we're ready to go.
Yeah, man, we don't discriminate any of the player props.
Yeah, and so with that Minnesota Chargers game, there's a few players that we're going to be interested. Justin Jefferson obviously is going at the 1-1, very clear number 1 pick this week. I think he's at the top of our wide receiver rankings. But beyond that, Keenan Allen's still going top 10. Mike Williams around ADP 16. TJ Hawkinson's basically going top 10, 10.8 ADP. If we miss out on these guys, Brian, are we really interested in a lot of other players from this game? Jordan Addison, Joshua Kelly.
I think Kelly's the one I'm interested in the most. I'll let you make your pick here, and I'll state my case as to why.
So I got the 3 pick. I did a few of these drafts already. Actually, meant to show a couple of those teams before we started. I forgot. But top 3, I think, is pretty clear this week. I don't really. I mentioned we want to take a late running back. So Tony Pollard is the one early running back I'm comfortable taking. Travis Etienne against Houston looks pretty good too. But Bijan is actually a little bit lower in our rankings. Part of the reason he's not exactly getting all of the goal line work. Tyler Algier still exists. So I'm fine fading Bijan in this format this week. But if we do end up with the 4 pick, I don't mind taking Tony Pollard. We can reach a little bit to get CD Lamb or Stephon Diggs. Remember, ADP here doesn't matter. Are you doing anything different with the top 4 or 5 pick, Brian?
No, not necessarily. I think you're pretty spot on there. The one thing we do have to monitor, which is generally overplayed, but it may not be this week, is this weather on the East Coast. Tropical storm coming up the East Coast. I know here in the DC area, we're going to get 40, 50 mile per hour winds, torrential rain on Saturday. That could creep into Sunday. And if it goes into the games, the Buffalo at Washington game, some of these other East Coast games could be affected. I've already seen the Buffalo Washington total down 2 points. I don't know if that's a preemptive move based on the weather, but it is something to consider, especially if you're spending your first round pick on Diggs.
Yeah, and looks like we might have a chance at Stephon Diggs here. I think I'm gonna go ahead and go for it. If I was able to get Travis Kelsey, I would just pair him with Mahomes, cover boys for today's stream. But in this situation, is Diggs? You think Diggs is a pretty clear pick here?
Let's see here. Yeah, probably just based on ADP. I may even reach for Mike Williams here, but it does seem early, right? Like if you want to get that game environment, it just seems like a little bit of a reach for Mike Williams. Um, but to Kelly's point, right, burned a lot of people in DFS last week. It sounds like Eckler is trending out once again in week 3, and the matchups could not be on opposite ends of the spectrum from last week versus Tennessee's notoriously tough rush defense to now Minnesota's soft rush defense. So I think Kelly, I think we had him projected for 1% ownership in the model. That'll probably bump up once we get clear word that Eckler is out. Either way, one of the lower owned running backs being drafted ADP around 34 here. A great way to get cheap exposure to that high total game.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's a great spot to go to. I do want to point out this player in pick 6, JJB2386. I think this is pretty sharp what he did here, taking Keenan Allen and TJ Hawkinson, just getting you miss on Justin Jefferson, but you get the other 2 top skill players from this game in a high total game. So I think that's pretty great. I would have taken Mike Williams here, but did not get that chance here. What would you do here, Brian? Are we in on Calvin Ridley? I don't mind Travis Etienne, but I mentioned all the late running backs that we like.
Yeah, I would prefer to go Ridley here, and then we can take honestly Kelly later. I would imagine. And the 6 hole his picks of Allen and Hawkinson is actually a great representation of the strategy you and I were discussing pre-stream, which was if you've seen on Twitter there was a breakdown of Chipotle Addict, one of the top NFL DFS players. One of his allocations in week 1 during the 4K Millionaire Maker had like 23 entries. And his strategy in that particular contest was to go really heavy on a 1-by-1 stack, a mini stack of the highest total game. In that game, it was Eckler versus Tyreek Hill. It helped that Tyreek Hill scored about 50 points. Eckler put up about 25. Obviously, it helped his results. But I think this game in this week sets up pretty perfectly to execute that strategy where you pick 2 guys from that game, pair them up, let other people take not waste, but spend their higher picks on the quarterbacks from that game, while if we're making a lot of entries here, rotate different stacks and quarterbacks at the bottom of the draft and just get our exposure through the 1v1 stacks.
And so I thought that we were going to end up taking Tua. He's, for some reason, pretty low in the rankings every week, and he's showing up, I think, number 3 in our Occupy model this week. Remember, if you're using the model to draft your Battle Royales, then you want to sort by the FDOF because that matches up with the scoring format. Are we just taking Josh Allen here every time?
I guess if you took Diggs, it makes sense, right? I do like the Tua angle because you can pair it up with a cheap Denver player later, like Cortland Sutton or someone like that. But Josh Allen and Diggs is another high upside pairing. So
If we if we had passed on Ridley, I wouldn't mind doing that at all. Just taking Tua and then we can get Jerry Judy in basically the last round, or
Sure.
Sutton, whoever our preference is. But since we have Diggs, we'll go ahead and take Josh Allen here. Now, the difficult part for me is there's three elite tight ends on the slate. Travis Kelsey, he's probably actually going a little bit too early, I think, but I still don't mind it. And then Mark Andrews and TJ Hawkinson. Prefer TJ Hawkinson to Mark Andrews pretty heavily this week, even though I think the model disagrees with me there. Mark Andrews is number two. But what other tight ends are we really interested in targeting? I'm pretty sure Hunter Henry and Sam Laporta are the other guys near the top of the model. It's a little uncomfortable. What do you think?
Yeah, it seems like you definitely have to try to get one of those top tight ends early. But if not, again, just wait until your final pick. I know we tried the Gerald Everett idea when you and I were on stream together in week one, put up a huge total of 3 fantasy points. But you could go Dalton Kincaid here, get
Mm-hmm.
a 3-0 Buffalo stack. That's super interesting. Uh, but I don't mind Hunter Henry either. Getting a lot of work in that offense, passing more than I think most people expected. But I think Kincaid for this particular build makes a lot of sense.
And then going off of that too, so Dalton Kincaid, I don't think has been drafted. I've only done a few of these, but he hasn't been drafted at all. Do we like taking Brian Robinson at the running back to as a run back for our Buffalo stack?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Do we just take Brian Robinson here, or do we take Josh Kelly, who we've been talking about, or we just fade that game entirely with this entry and hope that it busts? So
With this one specifically, I think if we did manage to get Hawkinson or even Jordan Addison, I'd probably
sure.
be interested in Kelly. But Brian Robinson, he's the hot player right now. He had a great game last week. I think he was the highest fantasy scorer last week in full PPR. That's correct.
Yeah, I think so.
Um, so we have our full Buffalo stack. Maybe people are down on Josh Allen. We got him a little past ADP here, and yeah, we'll probably just do the full stack with Dalton Kincaid. And Josh D in the chat, surprised we didn't take Allen there.
I think
I don't
that's
know
in
if you're,
round three.
yeah, I don't know which Allen, but if it was Keenan Allen, he was already taken at six. So I don't know that we want to take him at three. It's fine if you do. It's probably unlikely that we're going to get him with Hawkinson. Maybe we do sometimes. And then Robinson over Kelly, interesting. And that was again just based on the having the Buffalo stack and getting Brian Robinson as the run back.
Yep. So do you think this slate has what 12 games, 12 or 13 games? Is it too much in a 6-man lineup to have 4 guys from one game? Allen, Digg, Kincaid, and Brian Robinson?
It could be. It could be. I mean, just looking, it comes down to what the other options are, though. Like Hunter Henry is really the only other player I'm interested in here. Sam Laporta is interesting, but it looks like Amon Ra is trending towards playing this week.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm down to go whichever the direction you want to go here. Jake Ferguson looked pretty good last week too. Actually, don't hate Zach Ertz. I don't think a lot of people are really going to be clicking on him. Gerald Everett, if we do want to get exposure to that high total.
I think we're at this point we're all in on fading that game in this entry. So, and I'm a sucker for correlation, so I'm going to say we go with Kincaid.
All right, let's do it. So this is a not a bad team. I don't mind this at all. We got three wide receivers in a row. We did get our late running back. We got Dalton Kincaid, which if we miss on the top three tight ends, just kind of flip a coin or go for correlation. And we got
Yep.
Josh Allen, who's going pretty late. I know it's a different matchup, but he was number one or number two in Chris's rankings last week. So feel pretty good about that one. See if we can
Yeah.
take a look at, well, I wish we could take a minute to look at the other teams there, but we didn't really get to do that.
That disappeared quickly. All right.
Yeah. Did want to see if we could take a look at a couple of these teams. So Michael Pittman was a player that I'm very interested in this week. We have confirmation that Anthony Richardson is not going to be playing. Are we more interested in Michael Pittman with Gardner Minshew starting?
I think we have to be just by nature of just plays being available that Richardson is not taking, whether by design, run, or scramble. So I think just you have to be. Maybe the offense as a whole has a little bit of a lower ceiling, but we should see a higher target volume for Pittman, I would
Mm-hmm.
imagine, anytime Richardson is off the field. Maybe touchdown equity goes down a little bit, but again, we're playing him for the tons of catches, tons of yards. I like this team a lot, actually, where you got the Nico ETN connection.
Yeah, and Nico Collins is weird for me. Like he had an awesome game last week. His target share looks great. I mean, CJ Stroud looks like he's just going to be chucking up the football. But his ADP of 25, it's higher than a few of the other players that we're probably going to be interested in here. I
Yeah.
did take him here for the ETN run back. I did mention ETN is probably my second favorite higher priced running back this week. So this was the first one that I did, and my whole goal, I thought it was going to take me a few tries to get Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce on the same team. I find that Patrick Mahomes is going much earlier than ADP, but somehow we managed to pair him up here, and so I hope I
That's
didn't mess up that pair. We also got Chris Olave a few picks past ADP. Other Kelsey stack. DK Metcalf is one of those players that I was talking about. Is a little bit lower on the rankings, but he looks pretty good in our Occupy model this week. Nico Collins went well past ADP. I think he actually went undrafted in a couple of the other ones that I did, but you can see how the score is a lot different, the projected score, when we're taking Hunter Henry and we don't have one of the elite tight ends. It just looks gross.
yeah.
I mean, we're really just counting on a touchdown, whereas Kelsey, Hawkinson, Mark Andrews don't necessarily have to catch a touchdown to get there. But I did get the Minnesota Chargers stack here, so with Justin Herbert, so that felt pretty good. Number one in our quarterback rankings this week.
That's really nice too. Yeah, I mean, and that game just as a whole, as I said at the top, is by far the number one stack this week. So it's no surprise that, uh, yeah, this is a really good team here. I like this as well.
I like this. And then this one, I'm not really happy with this team. With the double running back, I'm not sure how viable that's going to be this week. But I mean, Derrick Henry, he hasn't had a good game yet. Ty Spears is sitting there waiting to take Henry's touches. We saw that be a little bit different in week 2. But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, do you want to jump in another draft real quick, and I'll bring up a point about the double running back.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think what was it? Hayden Winks maybe from Underdog was tweeting out preseason about how often running back versus wide receiver versus tight end was used in the flex in best ball in 2022. And I think a lot of people were surprised at how often running backs showed up there. Certainly that has to do with the entire environment of the NFL, but also the half point PPR scoring on
Mhm.
Underdog Fantasy. Do you think, or is this completely unrelated? There's no connection here that maybe it's okay to play double running back on Underdog because of that scoring and because of the numbers we saw from Hayden there.
I'm definitely more interested in it, but one thing I want to point out about this team is I mentioned I like Michael Pittman, but Gabe Davis is my second wide receiver. I took him to pair with Josh Allen. I'm not sure that this is a strong enough wide receiver group, even if these two running backs go
Right.
off. We're really
Right.
counting on 2 touchdowns from Gabe Davis. Michael Pittman, we know, is going to get 12 targets, hopefully, anyway. And we do have the elite tight end, but I'm not as confident in this setup if we're doing that double running back. But we did get 2 of probably the top 3 higher priced running backs. So
That's true. I'm wondering if this week, especially, 2 late round running backs is a better move if you're going with 2 running back builds.
it could be, yeah. Just missing on those early receivers. It's
It's a big
how many.
yeah, it's a big opportunity cost.
Yeah, just the chances of Brian Robinson, Joshua Kelly, Jerome Ford, even like Ramondre Stevenson's going pretty late, playing the Jets, but their chances of matching the production of these top running backs, I have to imagine, is higher than the chances of these late receivers matching the production of Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Stephon Diggs, right? Keenan
Yeah,
Allen.
I would think so. All right, let's see if we can get a Chargers Vikings mini stack here, and
Yeah,
then off the board quarterback stack.
I'm thinking that we're going to be able to get Keenan Allen and TJ Hawkinson. I mean, I entered a fresh room, so hopefully we don't have a viewer in here coming to snipe our stack, but it's a little different than talking about our picks for best ball.
That's true. When it was guaranteed to be sniped, when you said it out loud, I think we're fine here.
Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and take Keenan Allen. And remember, ADP, like I mentioned, maybe it matters more in the first 2 rounds, but it really doesn't. Especially in the last rounds. Like I see a lot of talk on Twitter. I think the Badge Bros do a lot of these Battle Royale drafts, and they always talk about, what's the best strategy in Battle Royale is just scrolling down and taking guys who aren't typically drafted. So
Yeah, I mean, I cannot imagine the ADP is efficient here.
no, I mean, we saw Bijan going at number 5 ahead of some of these guys, and like I said, like maybe it's not terrible, but I think it's incorrect.
I 100% agree, and you maybe someone can make the argument of Bijan deserves to go there, but I think the overall general point of ADP it cannot be efficient. There's not enough people making content for this.
Mhm.
Projections are changing often enough, and I just don't think that there are that many people. I mean, there's one other person with the experience badge here feed the freezer. I just can't imagine more people are taking this seriously. So, all right. So Keenan, T.J. Hawkinson, we got the mini game stack there.
Mm-hmm. And that's not to say that like Bijan is obviously a more talented football player than the other running backs that we're targeting, but it just the opportunity cost of passing up on these top receivers is a little bit too high this week. And we saw this guy get Travis Kelce and Mahomes stack, so it might be a little bit uncommon, but it is possible.
Right. Interesting. All right. So I'll give you some of the other game stacks that I like outside of that game, and maybe you can target one of their quarterbacks. So Denver, Miami. So Russell Wilson's a guy that I think is interesting. We talked about Mahomes, Dak Prescott. If they decide to go through the air against Arizona, Baltimore, Indy. Like you could take Lamar. Where's Lamar going in these drafts?
He's going a little bit too late, 23.
Yeah, I mean, we can go Lamar, and Odell Beckham is out, so that opens up the opportunity. Just a couple more targets for Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman. So you go Lamar, Flowers.
So are you
That's
not that
interesting
interested in Justin Herbert or Kirk Cousins this week?
I am 100% interested.
Okay.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. By far my favorite stack, and if you can get that, I think it makes a ton of sense. I was just pontificating off that idea we had earlier.
Do we want to super stack this game and go with Mike Williams, or we want to take Amon-Ra at a perceived discount with the injury uncertainty?
I would prefer to super stack if we're going to stack it.
Let's do it. I love it.
Let's hope this game scores 70.
Yeah, this game, outscores every game by 2-3 touchdowns. I mean,
Yep.
There's more than enough to go around. We haven't seen Mike Williams really have a great game yet. Keenan Allen is just Justin Herbert has eyes for Keenan Allen. He looks awesome out there. So
he does in this newer offense for sure. So, I mean, this set up too perfectly for you.
Yeah, we kind of just have to take Justin Herbert here. Don't think there's any other consideration. And then as far as, so we have our elite tight end, we have 2 elite receivers, we have our elite quarterback. So we're probably going to end up well, we could go whatever we want. We have the running back in the flex here. So I don't know that we want a super stack with Joshua Kelly, and I'm not very confident Alexander Madison right now.
Yeah, I think this is enough for sure.
So do we want to try to set up a mini stack with a running back and a wide receiver? What do you?
Yeah, I think ideally that would be fantastic if we could. We could go. Let's see here. I'm just looking. Like you do like Pittman, right? So you could go Pittman, Gus Edwards, who Armando is a big fan of this week with Justice Hill out. Obviously, Dobbins on IR. We know Edwards is going to get the goal line work. Melvin Gordon is complete dust. Kenyon Drake just signed, so Edwards is in a good spot. But I think there are a few situations like this where you could easily late mini stack.
I think that's what I'm going to go for here. Pittman and Gus Edwards. Gus Edwards is number 1 on our FD OF rankings, which I mentioned is the same scoring format as Underdog. And Gus Edwards with an ADP of 35.9. I think that means he's getting drafted here and there, but for the most part, he's not. And I mean, even just looking at the Underdog projections, he's projected for 8.5 fantasy points. It's not terribly different from these other guys. Like 1 touchdown is could be the difference here.
Right.
So let's go for that one.
Okay, I like that. The other idea I was looking at was he might have just gone, but Mostert and Denver receiver.
Mostert and a Denver receiver. Mostert is on the board, so we could go that route too.
It's up to you. If you want to increase your Michael Pittman from Gardner Minshew exposure, I won't be the one to stop you.
Mostert and where's Jerry Jeudy? Jerry Judy's just going a little bit too low. Hasn't looked great. Russell Wilson, is he playing? He's not playing in prime time this week, so we're just gonna go for the Pittman. The primetime Russell Wilson games are coming. I think the Broncos have 5 this season. So
can't wait. It's gonna be fantastic.
I don't think I watched any quarterback play more than Russell Wilson last season. Just all the primetime games he had.
You're gonna get your fair share of another quarterback this primetime. It's Daniel Jones. I think they still have like 5 more games somehow in primetime. So
it just doesn't look great.
It does not look great at all.
I mean, is Daniel Jones not the epitome of a tournament play, though? I mean, he's either going to give you 6 or 34, but so far what we've seen this season. So
yeah, and he seems very matchup matchup sensitive. And I mean, I don't want to say this. This is just a battle royale show, so I don't want to get too deep into it. But I Daniel Jones obviously is not a great quarterback, but I don't think he's as bad as he's looked now.
Mm.
The offense is so bad, dude. I said this in Discord last night. Like Dayball and company are not helping him out. They have all
No.
these receivers who I don't think any would start on 90% of other teams, and they're
Mhm.
running out 6 of them and rotating them. And they're just asking them to just go win one-on-one matchups. There's no creativity, no motion, no. It's just, I mean, miserable play designs. So it's not really, and dealing with backup offensive linemen. So I'll digress.
Well, that not to get too much more into it, but that play where I don't know what a safety is in the NFL, but where Daniel Jones almost took that safety, like not only did they have Daniel Bellinger trying to block, but they didn't block. They just let one of the best defensive players in the NFL touch their quarterback. So
I mean, you can't. If you're going to design that play, it better fucking work. And you cannot do that. So, yeah, Dan Jones not being helped out. I will say this team you just drafted though. Let's talk about some positive. Is incredible. I love this team.
yeah, if we're talking about just core, like this is what we were talking about with the core strategy this week. Get a late, you know, load up on especially the Charger Minnesota game. Late running back.
That's a
I
beauty,
mean,
dude.
this is probably my favorite team I drafted so far. If the Mahomes Kelsey stack in this one, even though the projection, don't pay attention to this. Like, this doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah.
Do we want to fire one more?
Let's fire one more. I got a little bit of time. So
See if we can get a little bit different look, or even if we can get another supercharger Minnesota stack. That still sounds good to me. Get a couple more shots on goal.
sounds good. Sounds good to me.
Let's look at the prize pool. It's only 30K to first. Only 30K to first this week. I think it was 50K last week, but it might have been a $10 entry also. So I don't
It was,
mind
I
this.
think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Don't mind this price point, especially when 10th place is 10% of what first place is. This is a pretty good payout structure.
yeah, man, this is some poker payout structures.
Yeah, gotta love that.
I really wish. I know you have in the past and still do dabble in poker, and the poker prize pools are. I'm very envious of them. You know, sometimes you get second place is almost just as much as first in some of those poker tournaments. So I would love to see that in DFS. We're never going to see it with the way the ecosystem is now, but I would love to see that.
Yeah, poker. It's always something I say I'm gonna do when the NBA and NFL off season, and then I tried to this summer. I went pretty hard on tournaments, playing online, a little bit live, and it's just my patience is a lot less than it was 10 years ago when I was pursuing that. It's just
Dude,
like
yeah,
DFS. The game starts, and in NFL for the most part, like we're doing some swaps for the afternoon games, but I don't have to sit at my computer for 12 hours in a row, not being able to leave, having my brain constantly firing decisions, and so I mean, I made more money in poker, but I prefer
it's just draining,
DFS.
man. Mentally draining and social life draining. Like you can't do anything if you're playing poker. So
Yeah, and like poker players are cool, but DFS players are chill, if that makes sense. I don't know.
yeah. No, that totally makes sense. Yeah, if you go to if you're at a poker tournament, there can be some hostility there, but go to a DFS live final, and almost everyone is pretty laid back and cool to talk to.
Yep, especially like the lower buy-in poker tournaments I play. Everyone's just angry all the time, man.
Hey, it's like, bro, chill, man. Why are you so mad right now?
Uh, do we? So I'm assuming this guy's going to take Kelsey, but assuming he does, do we want to just go for another Chargers Minnesota stack?
Yeah, at the very least, we'll mini stack it, and in best case scenario, we will full stack it.
Hmm. I mean, if we can get Kelsey and Mahomes, I don't mind that at all. But can't imagine
How,
this guy passes up.
I was just gonna say, I know you've taken it once at least already this week in the battle royales, but how worried are you about the Kansas City offense so far?
Um, well, specifically like Travis Kelsey versus the other tight ends, I'm not very worried. But overall, I don't know. It doesn't look great. It was something like last season. I think 11. Maybe that's incorrect, but they had way more totals of 50 plus than any other team in the NFL. And this season, I'm not sure if the totals have adjusted. I haven't looked in the future weeks, but it just other than Travis Kelsey, who is reliable on this Chiefs team?
Sky Moore,
Yeah,
Kadarius Toney.
I mean, it's just yeah. So no one. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. He's going to be projected for almost 300 passing yards a week. But you know, if Travis Kelsey's not catching 100, then where is it going? I think he almost got there last week, Mahomes. But
Yeah,
it's
the
not
game
a.
environment was disappointing as a whole.
Oh man, Tony Pollard at number 8 is kind of tempting, but
It's tempting. We could go Addison later if we want the mini stack. Pollard is super. I mean, 5 picks past where he normally goes, right?
yeah,
Four,
should
four
we?
picks.
Let's go for Pollard, and maybe we'll just take Addison and hope that Hawkinson's not the guy. I know we talked about the elite tight ends. Mark Andrews is already off the board. Hawkinson's never making it back to 17, but
Right. Well, we'll see.
it's
Uh,
something.
do you
Hmm,
see? Do you see in the chat? We're in our who can we count on for the Chiefs? And Ken is in the chat and says Jerick McKinnon when he's chalk. So that is true.
this is a true statement. Kinnan, ADP 36, so even worse than 35.9. Maybe he's been drafted just a few times. What are we looking at? I don't know how many targets he had last week, but he did catch 3 balls for 24 yards. Add 2 touchdowns to this, and he's looking great. But other than that,
Pacheco limited, potentially out. We'll see. So Galaxy brain play there.
uh,
You can't just like straight up swap if no one's hurt, right?
yeah, if no one's hurt, you can't straight up swap. But there is so with Pacheco questionable, if we did like Pacheco, I love it as a last round pick because it does give us the flexibility to swap to basically any other undrafted player in
True.
that last round. And we're going to have more information Sunday morning than we have now. And so
So it's not a
when,
bad idea to take like Eckler, right?
no,
And
no.
Eckler's out, and then you can take, God forbid, someone's out Sunday morning. You're like, oh, I'll swap this guy that no one drafted.
Yeah, if we had a little more confidence that Eckler was playing, I wouldn't mind it. Or we could just do it and just, literally take whoever else we want. But
Right.
so we got a little weird here. What direction do we want to go? Do we just want to go for Jordan Addison right now? Or
Yeah, we could
probably
probably
get
get him
him
on
at
the.
20.
Yeah, probably get him here on the coming back. Maybe we talked about Lamar earlier too, right? We could go
Hmm.
Lamar, Herbert. Oh, we want Herbert or Cousins though, right? So maybe we just go Addison Cousins back to back.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I was thinking about was Chris Olave. He's probably the number one on the Saints, but Michael Thomas still got got a big portion of that target share last week. So
Right. Yeah, that game was just weird in general, and that Monday night slate was so miserable to watch overall.
mhm.
But Olave is the weighted opportunity guy there. We want to hammer. So I think a 1 week blip in target share is not the end of the world, and Olave is definitely the guy.
We said Justin Herbert, right?
I did say Herbert. I think I said Cousins, but I meant Herbert. So
I wasn't paying attention, so kind of timed out on that one. I was reading Chris, our NFL writer, in the chat. What do we think about drafting Waddle for the swap upside if he sits?
Interesting. Is he going undrafted or relatively undrafted? I assume.
Yeah, ADP 34. He's
Okay.
probably mostly going undrafted, but he is going to practice today. Today's Friday.
Somehow, man, I thought with the new protocol that it was basically impossible if you didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday. But as Ken said in our staff chat earlier, that may not matter if you're a star receiver. So, um, yeah, I don't know. That was interesting. I thought for sure he was done, but if we can get Waddle last pick when no one's taking him, he somehow plays. And if not, we take the guy that we have the most information on Sunday morning that people haven't drafted. So I love him as a last round pick.
All right, let's shoot for that then. So the downside of passing up on Hawkinson for Tony Pollard is we have to make a decision on one of these tight ends again. I think Hunter Henry is
All right.
probably my top choice, but what do you think here? I don't know if we have a. I mean, Zach Ertz is.
Yeah, it's bad. So
It's not worth the correlation with Pollard even.
no. I mean, maybe despite his knee being shredded and them tanking, they're just giving him a bunch of targets, and I don't understand it. But
Yeah, this is very nice for DFS. 8 and 10 targets in the last 2 weeks.
you know what? Like, I mean, I don't hate it here. I truly don't. So
Uh, I mean, I don't know if Trevon Diggs is really going to affect Zach Ertz. I should say I don't know if it's a positive for Zach Ertz, but it is a hit to
the
Dallas's
defense
defense,
overall,
right?
yeah, for sure. So, I mean, if you just take all the names off of it, like Ertz is a guy that would be drafting with 18 targets in 2 weeks. We'd be drafting him in these drafts. So I think with the
Okay.
extra correlation, I think you have to like it.
So we could I don't know if Waddle going to get drafted here. Do we go for Waddle and Ertz? I mean, I think we doesn't really matter which order we take it in, but for sometimes we do want to consider the order. that we take these guys in. This guy's not going to take Ertz because he has
Yeah,
Mark
so we take
Andrews.
Waddle first for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, smart. That's very smart. Not that we care about necessarily getting sniped on Waddle, but for the purposes of what we're trying to display here, yeah, we want to get Waddle. So
Yeah, and missing out on Zach Ertz is not exactly a disaster.
and if it means someone takes 2 tight ends, then so be it. We'll gladly welcome that.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Like if you're taking 2 tight ends, it's a little different than it is in best ball because in best ball we want to advance to the playoffs, right? And it doesn't really matter there either. But here, I don't know. You kind of just have to get lucky with the 2 elite tight ends if you're going that route, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I don't know if I'd be the one doing it here, but someone took Fields. That's interesting, given the fact that they refused to run him and how he said it's purely the coach's fault. So,
Yeah, I mean,
have you seen an organization collapse this early, this early into this season, as the Bears have this year?
no, but I still have to. I still have to hold on to faith that Justin Fields is going to somehow return to the form he had in the second half of last season. I hyped this guy up pretty hard preseason, and then he had one pass to DJ Moore, and it was really hard to keep drafting him after that. Just he went about a round too early, probably. And this guy did take the Justin Fields, DJ Moore.
Interesting. I like that.
Yeah, that's one thing that I thought about doing when I did take that Mahomes Kelsey stack is taking DJ Moore in the last round, but I didn't do it.
I mean, this dude in the 6th pick just correlated as much as he could. ETN and Nico Collins, Mark Andrews and Michael Pittman, and then the DJ Moore, Justin Fields.
And it's kind of like, so I do think that Justin Fields is not awful at football, right? And DJ Moore is one of my favorite receivers in the league. And so I like doing this because they're going to have a good game eventually, right? And if you can get them in a week where they're not really getting drafted, nonetheless getting drafted together, and they go off, I mean, that's a lot of leverage in a tournament like this.
Yeah, I mean, we've said this on the DFS shows on this channel, but still to this point, despite already having 2 games of action, ADP is still more predictive for the rest of the season right now than the first 2 weeks of action have been. And if you look at when you and I did these drafts in week 1, Fields and Moore, at least Fields for sure, was going round 2 in these battle royales. Now, 2 weeks later, it's going round 5, round 6, basically. So that is probably something we should take advantage of.
Another player I've seen get drafted a couple times, Durham Smythe. What do we think about that? He's playing 100% of snaps so far this season, I think.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And he can't, like, Mike Gesicki was not a bad receiving tight end, but they didn't throw him the ball last season. And Durham Smythe probably already has more targets than Gesicki had through half of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Gesicki looks decent in New England too. Already, I think he has 9 targets through 2 games. So it was just something not meshing with the coaching staff and Gesicki last year. So Smythe seems like a coach's guy. Blocks, runs the plays, sure hands, not flashy. Yeah. So I get it. I see it. And if a tight end is going to run that many routes, like, we have to be interested.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, just looking at the projected points here, we did go with the early running back. We got Zach Ertz as our pseudo elite tight end, and we're 10 points behind, these other top projected lineups. Not that this matters too much, but again, just reinforcing that I think we really want to target some. I know this is an early running back, but we really want to target elite tight end and the early receivers, and we can tack on one of these. I guess I didn't really take that many late running backs, but Gus Edwards, I mean, top of the model, we got him in the last round, so.
I'm glad I could help you draft 2 of your worst projected teams of your 6. So,
well, these are the teams that have the best chance of winning, right?
They do. So I can't wait to look forward to see how these perform. So I'm excited. Helped you 10x the in week 1 with the 1 entry. So let's beat that this week.
Nigel gave us a comment in the chat. Akers isn't playing week 3. It's like he didn't play week 2 for that team either, and Madison still. Yeah. I mean, it's something like Minnesota Vikings, I think, have a historic pass rate right now. They're 10% higher than any other team in NFL history. It's only 2 weeks. It's not going to hold. But they have zero confidence in Madison, it seems like.
Yep, just ultimate prime example of dead zone running back in season long. And it's already playing out. So,
and Swag Lord Ken, occupy zones. Ken, not enough danger us. I'm not disagreeing. Probably pump out a few more of these. I'm not sure I'm going to get to rest in any of them, but we'll see how that goes.
All right, not enough is 0, so at least get 1, and that's maybe closer to enough.
Yeah, maybe if I get up to 20 entries, I'll have one with Russell Wilson, Jerry Judy, something. So we'll see. 5% Russ seems fine.
All right, sounds good.
So thanks for joining me, Brian. This was great. Hopefully the viewers got some good information out of it, how to attack battle royales. And even if they're not playing battle royales, it's still some good information for their other DFS lineups for this upcoming slate. So any final words before we get out of here?
No, appreciate you having me on the show. We will have the live stream for tournaments tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, I believe. Chris is putting out the main slate preview video tonight. Chris is also doing the live chat Sunday morning in Discord. And I do want to remind people, if you missed the top of the show, Underdog with their partners is boosting deposit match bonuses for new users until October 4th. So if you still have not signed up for Underdog, if you use promo code Occupy below when you sign up, you will get a 100% deposit match bonus, not up to $100, but up to $500. So $500 free dollars. Shit, that's 100 battle royale drafts you could do for free for this week. I don't know if you have the time to do that. Either way, 500 free bucks, you can't beat it in this industry.
Yeah, sounds awesome to me. And note in the chat is just pointing out O'Connell did say Cam Akers is likely to be inactive, but doesn't affect anything that we're doing here. So we'll see you guys next time. I'm pretty sure I'm going to try to pump out another NBA best ball draft before the end of the weekend. So look out on the Discord for that. We'll probably post on the Occupied Twitter when we can figure out what time works. But yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Good luck.